Hello, everyone. Before creating any videos and going through just a summary of some of the verses that we've already gone through and taking an inventory on where we are with that, I did want to put together a quick update regarding an important point in prophecy that potentially took place today. I don't know if any of you saw that. Trump and Netanyahu met today, and they announced the framework for a peace plan, a 20-point peace plan that Trump and other people had worked on. And so I want to just go through quickly how this may or may not be relevant to end times prophecy and where we are in these times today. And so just to give you a little bit of context before we jump into the actual framework of the agreement, just want to just show a couple quick Bible verses around the end times and kind of how this all fits together and what we can look for when we go through this plan. So in First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, this is referring to what happens right before the rapture takes place. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. So first, just point out a couple things. The word they here is referring to non-believers, basically people who don't put their faith in Jesus. And the phrase "they shall not escape," so it'll be non-believers not escaping the tribulation. In other words, not being a part of the rapture event and being left behind. So that's just to give you some context around how most people interpret that verse. So that's around the rapture, kind of what happens before the rapture, this cry for peace and safety. The word safety can also be translated as security. Then we have in Daniel 9:27, we have a verse that basically is the starting point of the 7-year tribulation. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. I'll just stop there. So he, most people believe, is the Antichrist. Confirm can also be used as strengthen, so confirm or strengthen a covenant or some kind of agreement. So this implies like that this is not a brand new agreement, that this is some sort of existing agreement that gets confirmed or strengthened with many. So most people believe that this implies Israel and a bunch of other countries. And then 1 week biblically is 7 years. So this is the big thing that we're looking for. This is one of the most concrete verses in the Bible about specifically when this tribulation period would start. And then we have Joel chapter 3, verse 2. I will gather all nations and bring them down to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there on account of my people, my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. They have also divided up my land. And so some people speculate that that this will be part of the end times and part of the tribulation, where perhaps this 7-year peace agreement that gets confirmed, could be dividing the land. I know there's talk of two-state solution. It doesn't necessarily have to be, those specific words, two-state solution, but just something where God's original land gets divided, taken away from the Israelites and divided amongst non-Israelites. So these are some of the verses that when we go through this this framework, we can just try to keep our mind on these verses and how it may or may not be relevant to this current plan that there seems to be at least a verbal agreement on. And so just to sort of like visualize what this looks like is in sequential order. You have everyone crying for peace and safety in 1 Thessalonians 5:3. Then at some point afterwards, probably shortly thereafter, you're going to have the rapture. And I will say, by the way, that the UN has been calling for peace and safety or peace and security for decades. I mean, so this isn't in the span of the overall history of the world. It's a short time frame, but it's not it's been like a good 20 years that they've been saying this, but it seems to be ramping up. this year in 2025 over the summer ramped up, and then now here we go. I think in this agreement we'll see a lot of this peace and safety, peace and security talk. So shortly thereafter is when the rapture happens, and then steps 3 and 4 is kind of like it's all sort of one thing. It's sudden destruction, start of the tribulation. That covenant gets confirmed with the many in Daniel 9:27. So that would be all these events. The amount of time between the rapture and the start of the tribulation is unknown. It could be instantaneous, or it could be years or decades. Most people believe it's going to be a very, very short time frame, because the rapture event will create such chaos in the world that there will have to be some sort of peace agreement and some sort of order that has to come out of this chaos to kind of calm people down. So and here you have sort of current day Israel and where the Gaza Strip is located, and you have this is ancient Israel, and Gaza was being part of that. So again, things that I think we should look for in this agreement, and some of the quotes and that people are saying, etc., are around peace and security, an agreement that's being strengthened, and a little bit around coexistence, or where this is no longer just Israel's land. This is going to be shared between Israel and other people such as Palestine. So here we have some quotes where Trump is calling this eternal peace, the peace and security, using a lot of hyperbole, as he usually does. Today is a historic day for peace. And then he says an expansion of the Abraham Accords. And so this implies that there could be, excuse me, 1 second, I just have to plug in my laptop here. Battery's running low. Okay. So this is where this could be like the strengthening of a covenant. So like the Abraham Accords, I think they were initially set up in, established 2017, 18, somewhere in there. And so this could be seen as potentially as a strengthening of a covenant or agreement from Daniel 9:27. Again, you just have more quotes around peace plan, peace in the Middle East, Abraham, referring back to the Abraham Accords. Same thing, is this real peace in the Middle East? It's truly incredible. This is a quote from Trump. And so, really implying this is a very historic, monumental agreement that's coming into place. So what I'm going to do is just quickly read through this 20-point agreement. And then, I've highlighted a couple areas where we can kind of pay closer attention to. I'll try to be as quick as I can here. Gaza will be de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. And before I move on, by the way, I just want to clarify that I'm not going to take any kind of political stance on this, just looking at this from a biblical standpoint. And a lot of what is in here, quite frankly, from a secular viewpoint, is great. We're talking about, peace and coexistence and people getting along. So I'm not necessarily trying to make any political statement on this. It's just, how does this fit into Bible prophecy? So second point, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza, who have suffered more than enough. Number 3, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, and I can't see the word behind here because of my recording, something in aerial and artillery bombardment will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Number 4, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages alive and deceased will be returned. Once the hostages are released, Israel released 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7, 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Number 6, once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave will be provided a safe passage to receiving countries. Again here, just using the words peaceful coexistence, it just sort of, there's that indirect implication of dividing of the land between Israel and non-Israel. Number 7, upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, water, electricity, sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. Number 8, entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies, and the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January agreement. Number 9, Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. The committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the development of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can be securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on the best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. So again, I'm just highlighting here some of the language around, again, not saying this is good or bad from a political standpoint, but just saying this is going to be transitioned over into Palestinian Authority away from Israel and effectively dividing a small portion of land granted biblically by God to Israel. And, you have the Board of Peace here, as again, just more talk of peace and safety, peace and security. Number 10, a Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security and governance frameworks to attract and facilitate these investments that will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for future Gaza. Number 11, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. Number 12, no one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so. And we will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. Again, a lot of this stuff sounds great. Number 13, Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military terror and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to a peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and all its factions, with their again, I can't see the word behind the recording here, with their obligations that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. Again, just highlighting peaceful coexistence, implied segregation of the land away from Israel, and again, the word peace. Number 15, the United Nations will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. The force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure border areas along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by all parties. Number 16, Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israel Defense Forces IDF withdrawal based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that would be agreed upon between the IDF, ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its citizens. Practically, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to the ISF according to an agreement they will make with the Transitional Authority until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat. Number 17, in the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up aid, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. Again, just highlighting that Israel will not occupy Gaza at all. So this being a small piece of what God had granted Israel in biblical ancient times is being divided per Joel chapter 3, verse 2. Number 18, an interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. Number 19, while Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. Number 20, and lastly, the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. So again, here we've got peaceful coexistence. We have, non-Israelites occupying and owning what God had ordained biblically as land for Israel. And we even have, interfaith dialogue where we're talking about, further moving away from a biblical Christianity, right? And where we may have some sort of amalgamation of other religions coming together in a non, Christian faith in God's land. And so I just wanted to just review this with all of you quickly, just to put it on your radar. By no means can we say with any degree of certainty that this is the Daniel 9:27 covenant that we talked about earlier, but it certainly has a lot of the makings of it, right? With a lot of this talk, we've got peace and safety, you've got the strengthening or revision of an existing covenant, which was the Abraham Accords, and so a lot of this does seem to fit some of the prophecy here, and so we'll have to wait and see. But I just would encourage all of you, if you're interested in this and interested in looking at this, to keep an eye on it and see how it progresses throughout the week and beyond. And yeah, just another. This is just. This is one of the central points of the start of the tribulation period and the possible rapture. And so there's lots of other points as well, but this is one of the central themes, and there just happened to be some big news on it today. So I thought I'd share it. And, if maybe to encourage you to consider, your relationship with Jesus, with God right now. And, I know everyone's busy, but to maybe just take a few moments and really think this through, just in case we are approaching the end. And again, my belief is that, anyone can be saved in a moment, in an instant. It's never too late, as long as we have breath in our lungs, and the rapture hasn't happened yet, especially, so we wouldn't have to go through the 7-year tribulation where we just recognize that we're sinners. We confess this with our mouth to Jesus, and that we believe that he has completely redeemed us through his perfect blood sacrifice, his blood and his resurrection, and that we believe that we have now, spiritually speaking, eternal life in the present moment because of what he did for us, and that we welcome him into our life, and we're ready to have a relationship with him, and just say that to him in a prayer. Of course, it has to be authentic. You have to truly believe it in your heart. But yeah, I would encourage you to consider that. And Jesus knows every thought that's in our brain anyway. So there's nothing, we can't hide anything from him. So why not, just have this conversation now, and even just ask him if you're real, if all this stuff is real. Are we really close to this end times moment? Can you give me a sign? And he will, if you ask with your heart in his time. It might not happen right away, but he'll do it. So anyway, this is getting a little long. I will let you all go. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you.